All right, so we're back with the budget Fbody build. So first thing I'm gonna do here, so I got the engine here. I'm gonna start taking parts off of this. Like I said in the last video, I only have one engine stand, so I'm gonna have to do this on the cherry picker. I wanted to show real quick, the way I lift these engines, the LS engines, I actually use a carburetor plate, which maybe you've seen this before, but the carburetor plate lines up well with four of the bolts that go on your valley cover. So they do make the ones that like bolt to every single one, or maybe it's like six of the bolts on the valley cover. I've had like fully loaded motors with accessories and the harness and all kinds of stuff on there. I've never had an issue. It's been perfectly strong. But the main reason I use it is because I already had that plate. So I'm gonna get this thing bolted on, and then once it's in the air, I'll start recording again. All right, so I got the motor on the cherry picker. I just took off my flex plate. So probably gonna lift it up a little bit more. I'll take the pan off. The rear cover I'm gonna take off because I put a new seal in it. I have the front cover off already. I will have to take the oil pump off. I'll steal this chain. I'll probably use the timing sprocket from this cam. Like I said, I'll use this retaining plate, and then I might have to take, I'll probably take the pan, the pickup, and the covers inside and wash them out in my wash basin just to make sure there's no metal or anything in them. But once I get this pan off, I'll update you what's inside, because like I said, I did run this engine for maybe like 3, 4, 5, I don't even remember how long, but I ran it trying to get it to make oil pressure, and it wouldn't do so. So I'll have to look into this engine to see how bad it is, because I could have it as a spare. Maybe if the bearings are a little worn or something, I will tear it apart and put some stock replacement bearings in and gap the rings, and then it could be, you know, on standby as a spare for whenever this one goes bad that we're putting in. So yeah, I will get started on that and then show you what I find. All right, so got the pan off. Don't see anything wrong yet. As you can see, it's far cleaner than that other pan. Still some oil in it, but I'll keep digging into it. I'm gonna take the pickup tube off and the oil pump and see if there's anything obvious there. I really don't know why this thing didn't make any oil pressure. So once I find that out, I guess nothing will change, because still too scared to use this engine. Although this engine seems like it's probably in better shape, to be honest with you, other than maybe the bearings if they're messed up. But we'll swap the parts over to the other engine, because that one was running and should run, and that'll be good for now. And then maybe after I have that engine in the car and the car runs, I'll tear this one apart and we'll try to figure out what happened and if anything's wrong with it. So all right, so got everything off here. I can't find anything wrong yet, but I don't think it's going to be that obvious. Let's see if you can see under there. Bottom end of the motor. It actually looks pretty clean. That's because when I did this, I put the caps in the ultrasonic cleaner, all the bolts in the ultrasonic cleaner, and honestly the engine was not as bad as the one that I'm about to put in there. Other things on this motor, like the motor that was in the Camaro had ARP studs. Well, I don't think they're ARP, there's some off-brand junk, but they're studs of some kind. I reused those, put like Amazon gaskets on it, and these heads were in the back of the car, and they look fresh. I mean, I don't know, but they were pretty clean. They didn't look like they've been run since they've been cleaned. So they're kind of a mystery head. I don't know if they actually work or not, but I mean, the car ran, but you know, for how long, I don't know how long it would run if it did have oil pressure. So still kind of a mystery head, but they're 706s just like the ones that are on the new engine. So right now I'm just draining some of the oil that was left in there into a pan, and then I'm gonna take these inside and wash them out in my basin just to make sure they're nice and fresh and clean. And then I believe we could get to assembling. I know I keep saying that, but I kind of get ahead of myself in my head. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think once those are clean, I can put the pan, the pump, everything on, and then I'm gonna prime it on the engine stand. When I put this other engine together, I actually did not have a way to prime it, so I put together a makeshift like priming tool. So I will take that stuff inside, clean it, and then update you when it's done. All right, so I'm back in the garage, got everything cleaned up. As you saw, there's like a lot of sludge and grime in the bottom, and this thing was perfectly clean before I ran it. So I don't know if the other engine, like the oil passages were plugged up with a bunch of stuff or what the problem was. I guess I won't find out until I take it apart later. But anyways, back out here, I'm probably gonna clean up the gasket surface here for the oil pan, and I'm gonna take off the rear. I was thinking about leaving it, but it looks like there's maybe a little bit of a rear main seal leak, so I'll put the new one on. And I also got a new oil diverter, so I'll show you how I take that out and put the new one in. So first thing, I'm gonna clean it up. I'm gonna do the gasket surface before I start putting the newer parts back on. I'm gonna try to get the engine ready to go back in the car, and then tomorrow night I'll probably put it in the car. So all right, so I cleaned up some of the gasket surfaces here, so I'm gonna start putting stuff back together. So this is your cam retaining plate. If you didn't know, you should always change these because there's a little bit of a gasket built in there, and so the old one can be like kind of worn down, and so this can cause low oil pressure just because what this is doing is connecting these two passages here, which these go through the lifters. So if this starts to leak, you're gonna have a loss of pressure through that leak. And so if you have this apart, definitely exchange it out for a new one. All right, so I torqued on the plate. First thing you're gonna wanna do before you put try to put the timing chain on, what I usually do is I'll just put the gear on there and spin it over. So you want them dot to dot. I'm using the old gear from the crank. The one that I'm using for the cam is from the other engine. And then the chain is from the other engine. Cleaned it in the ultrasonic cleaner, looks pretty good. So you're gonna wanna make sure you kind of soak this thing in oil a little bit just so it's lubed whenever you start it up. So I'm gonna do that, and then I will put this on. All right, so I'm just gonna dip the chain in some oil. And hang it on there. Grab my other gear. You might have to put it in the chain and out of the chain a few times because you got to make sure that the actual cog is lined up. So I think I got it right the first time. Looks like the cam needs to move a tiny bit. Try to push it up a little bit with my hand. Okay. All right. Just making sure on the cam all the way, and it is. Wipe my hand off real quick and I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see, it's harder to see on the top, but the dot is black because I didn't take this off and clean it, but dot to dot, chain's on. So I'm gonna use some blue Loctite on the bolts and get that torqued up. So what I have here is a new oil pump by Melling. This is pretty much a stock replacement. Now, I do know that if you're gonna run like higher RPM, you should use like higher pressure, or if say you have like a modified race engine, which like might have like bigger clearances, you'd want a higher volume and pressure. This one is just a standard pump, and the only reason I'm changing it out is there's not really a reason, but I know the engine ran before. I don't see any metal inside of the engine, so it's probably okay. I do know you can modify these. You can take this spring out and you can shim it with a washer. I don't think I'm gonna do that, although it'd probably be smart to. But like I said, I don't think this engine, I'm gonna rev it much higher than maybe like 6,800 or so. And it probably will make around 60 or so PSI of oil pressure, at least I'd hope. So hopefully it'll be okay. If I was really like putting a massive cam in it and I was gonna rev it really high, I would worry about it more, but I think I'm just gonna leave it for now. So there's a lot of debate on how you install these. Some people think that you need to take them apart and shim them with a like with feeler gauges. Now, at least for like melling, they say that all you have to do is put the pump on and then spin the engine over, which to me makes sense. So you would put the pump on the gear. I'll try to do, but these can be kind of finicky. You'd put it on, but you don't snug it. You would just leave it loose. It's gonna take me a second. Try to get the cog lined up. You would leave it loose, and then when you spin it over, I'll do this off camera. When you spin it over, that gear on the inside is going to push the actual case of the pump where it needs to be. That way you know there's no interference and that they're not touching. So to me, that makes the most amount of sense. Most people say that they'll just put a pump on and not worry about it, just torque it. And I've done that before too and had no issues. But I do think it's probably best if you spin it over once, just to make sure that it is doesn't have any interference when it's spinning. So I went ahead and I put the windage tray on, and I put on the oil pickup tube, which I washed out. It's the one from the other car. But honestly, had no sign of sucking anything up. So I'm questioning whether the other oil pump was actually working or not. But yeah, have this on here. One thing you need to pay attention to is if you have like a F-body car, you're gonna use the black O-ring. But if you have, pretty sure it's like the Suburbans and the trucks, they use the green. The oil pump comes with a schematic that explains it. But this one uses the black. So I'm gonna get this torqued on, and then I was debating whether I was gonna take the rear off because I kind of didn't want to mess with it, but I think I'm going to, just because if I put it in the car and then the rear main seal starts pouring oil, I'm really gonna be mad at myself. So I will get working on that. Okay, so it's like a day later. I stopped where I was at because I mocked the pan up with the pickup tube that I have currently. And as you can see, which yes, I know there's gonna be a gasket here. The gasket's not thick enough to make up for that. Well, it might be exactly the thickness, but if you can tell, if I have the gasket on there, the pickup tube will be touching the bottom of the pan. So I didn't notice this when I put it on the other engine. And so the pickup tube is like an Amazon cheapo pickup tube. I figured it wouldn't really matter. Also, like when I was putting the car together, I just wanted to spend as little money as possible. Now, maybe that's what caused it to not make oil pressure in the other engine. But the only other thing that doesn't make sense is that even when I primed the engine manually, like not with the oil pump, but with my tool, I could not get oil to the top of the engine. So that doesn't really explain that, because if the pickup tube's at the bottom of the pan, like say it's like sucking on the bottom, not pulling up oil, well, that would make sense that it's not gonna make pressure if it can't suck the oil through. So I understand that part, but that doesn't mean that if I make pressure with, say, like an outside vessel, which is what I was doing, using that pressure, it should be able to push the oil to the top of the engine through the push rods and up to the rockers, but I was not able to do so. So I did run to Summit yesterday before they closed, and I got a new pickup tube, which somehow I forgot in my house. So I'll have to go grab that. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the pan off, put the new pickup tube on there, and see if it fits properly. And then I still have to do the rear cover. And then one thing that I really am dreading is doing the broken studs in the heads. So I'm gonna try to use my flux core welder because I don't have like the proper electricity for a proper welder. So I only have like the flux core Harbor Freight, cheapo welder, but it should be good enough for what I'm trying to do. So I'm gonna weld some nuts onto those, which I'll record me doing, and we'll see if I can get those out. All right, so new OEM pickup fits great. As you can see on the screen, I have measured it, clearly a difference. So either I was sold the wrong one, which I don't think is likely, or it was just maybe like the Chinese company didn't get their measurements right. But anyways, I took the bolts off on this rear cover, so I'm gonna start to pull this off, see how it looks back here, and I will show you how to remove the oil diverter. So it looks pretty grimy. We'll set that to the side. Maybe I'll clean it up one day. Yeah, not the best I've ever seen, but that's okay. So I got a new gasket for this, so peel this gasket off, get it cleaned up, and then I'm gonna show you how I pull out this oil diverter. All right, so all I did was take a self-tapping screw. This is actually like a decking screw, but take your drill, put a ton of pressure on it until it starts to screw in, and then you should be able to just pull it out. You just want to be careful not to get too many plastic shavings into the engine, but as you can see, honestly, I don't know why it's not focusing, but anyways, the only reason I'm changing this is just because that O-ring could be a little worn out. If you didn't know, if this like O-ring is no good, throw this down there. If it's no good, the oil will come out the back, which the back plate actually doesn't seal. So, well, it seals to the outside elements, but it doesn't seal to the rest of the motor. So if this O-ring is no good, you'll have a loss of oil pressure because you'll have oil coming out this way. They do make metal ones that have like 2 or 3 O-rings. And all that diverter does is ensure that the oil is going to go through here, through your oil filter, and then back into the engine. People say that the stock replacement one, which I do have, the stock replacement one is better because if you have multiple O-rings, the idea that people say, I don't know how true it is, but people try to say that if you have an O-ring on this side, that it will prevent oil from bypassing this plunger. So if, say, like your oil filter gets too clogged up, so it's sending oil up into the oil filter, it's too clogged, people claim that oil can bypass this because there's no O-ring, and it'll still give oil pressure to the engine. I don't really know how true that is, but that's what some people claim. I've ran ones like this. I've ran ones that have the O-ring on both sides. I don't think it really matters, but since this is just like a simple, cheap build, I bought the stock replacement, which is like $10. So all I'm gonna do is lube this up and then put it in the back of the block. Okay, so the oil diverter's in. I put the new plate back here, but it is loose. So a lot of people get particular with this. I don't think it's like rocket science, but at least for the back, since it has the seal in it and it's on the crank, if you have this loose and when you put the oil pan on, tighten to the oil pan first and then tighten to the block, it should be centered up. I guess the fear is if you tighten this down in say like the wrong position, this seal might have more pressure on one side than the other, and so it'd be misaligned and you could have an oil leak. They make tools, which I have actually, for the front and the back, but I believe those tools, they're only for if you have the seal out. So if the seal was out, I could use the alignment tool and then put the seal in, but I already have new seals in both of these, so I'm not gonna be doing that. So for the front, I do have this tool. This is just mimicking the pan. It really doesn't do anything special. If you didn't have this, it wouldn't really matter because you could use the pan. But I do have it, so it's bolted on there. And then I am putting in the balancer right now. And so to do that, how I do it at least is I use the old bolt. Now, when you try to push it on there, it might not be on enough for you to have, oh, there's already a bolt in there, to have enough thread. So you want to make sure that it's pushed on enough to where there's a lot of thread engagement. That way you don't pull out your threads in your crank. So the way I do that is I take like a 4x4 or 2x4, lay it on this surface, and then I hammer it a few times until the seal and the fattest part of the harmonic balancer are pretty much touching. So then from there, you can just start to tighten down your bolt and it'll pull it in. So I just made another discovery. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this. This is why you spin your motor over before you put it in the car. Might be really hard to see. I could not get it to focus correctly. There is a bolt, a rod bolt, touching my windage tray. And so I did notice this before, but I kind of just ignored it. There is a slight dent on here. So not a huge deal. I'll just take it off and pound it out. All right, so I just took out the low oil level sensor here out of the pan. As you can see there. I'm gonna be putting in a, it's a 10 AN to something ORB fitting that it's sold specifically for this application. So there's a lot of debate whether you can use this port for a turbo drain. The reason why people say that is because this level of this port will be below the oil level. So the oil should be sitting above this. Now, the reason why I don't think it's a problem is if you know anything about like gravity, whatever the level of the oil is inside the pan will be the level of the tube. So whatever, you know, level is in the tubing, it's gonna match whatever's in the pan. Is it the most optimal? No, it's really not. But I don't have to cut, I don't have to drill, I don't have to weld. So it's just easier and it should work. So I'm gonna put that fitting on there. I'll show you what that looks like. And then I took this off, pounded it out. So everything clears now. Torqued on the bolt and the harmonic balancer, which is a complete pain if you've ever done that before. Front plate is torqued on. So I'm gonna put that fitting in. I'm going to torque the pan on and then do the rear plate. All right, got the pan on, got the motor flipped over. I'm going to quickly throw in the push rods, put the rockers on, and then put the valve covers on. I might clean up some of this oil that's from whenever I had it flipped over, but I'll throw those in because it's pretty easy and pretty self-explanatory. I'm gonna put my valve covers from this engine on because my coil packs match these, so, and they look better. Those will go on, and then I'm gonna focus on getting these studs out. These two that are protruding, those ones should be pretty easy. That one is flush, should also be able to get it with the welder, so I'll get this thing buttoned up and then I'll start on the studs that are. All right, so got the top end together. I figured before I put the valve covers on, I will try to prime the engine just to make sure we're getting oiled at the top. So there's like millions of videos about this, but this is just like a weed sprayer for pesticides. You can pretty much just buy a cheap one off Amazon, modify it. The self fittings that go into this port here, which this is like where your oil pump is. This port is usually just plugged with a plug, and then you have a an oil passage that goes straight down the block all the way back to where that oil diverter is and where the oil pump, or sorry, oil filter is. So you can see I got a new oil filter on there, using cheap oil filter, cheap oil, just to get it started. So I'm gonna start pumping oil into the engine, and you might have to turn the engine over to get oil to all of the cylinders, but I will start pumping this up, and once I get oil to everywhere, I will start recording again. All right, I've been pumping for a couple minutes, got my first sign of life here, so I'm gonna keep pumping it in and turning it over a little bit, see if we can get it to the rest of them. All right, got oil to all of them finally. This one was like a straggler, it took a while, but happy with that. So I'll put the rest of the oil in, and I might clean up the top a little bit here with a screwdriver, get the big chunks off, use the vacuum to put the valve covers on, and then I'm gonna start focusing on these studs, getting those out. So this has quickly turned into a disaster. As you can see, there's a mess everywhere because I had a spark fall and land down here on a napkin, lit on fire, so almost burnt the place down. This one, I was able to use some heat and some vice grips to loosen it. This one I welded and it snapped off. This one haven't tried yet, but might have to try to do an extractor. I'm not sure, just because I'm not sure how good my welder is gonna hold on to them. I mean, it was good enough to snap this one off, so we'll see. Been working on that one, couldn't get it, switched to this one, and it seems to be coming out. So just got one left, see if I can figure it out. So unfortunately, I think I decided I'm just gonna give up, and that might sound crazy, but yeah, I mean, I kind of did some research. I've been working on this for hours. You can see I kind of messed it up a little bit, but from my research, I'm pretty sure this extractor is made of hardened steel. And so the only way you're really gonna be able to weld to that is if you were able to heat it up to, like, online said like 300 to 500 degrees. Well, it's in an aluminum head, so the aluminum's gonna be pulling the heat away while I try to heat it up. Plus, you don't want the head, especially only in one part of it, to only get that hot. So I don't think there's really a good way to get it out. I've tried to drill through it. I've used my good drill bits. I've used like pretty much every drill bit I have. It doesn't even leave a mark on it. So, and unfortunately, most of the stud is actually the extractor, because I tried a smaller extractor size and then I had to go up one, and it was pretty much like a little bit smaller than the size of the stud. So I also have another set of 706 heads that I was thinking about putting on, but I went through all this effort to swap the springs, do all this stuff, and it's like, honestly, like, this engine's not going to stay in there forever. It's mostly just to make sure the car works, and to mock up like the turbo kit and everything. Ideally, I'd like it to have like a LC9 or something like that with gapped rings. So I'm just gonna give up and put it in the car how it is, I guess. Don't really think there's anything else I need to do. I did clean up like the gasket surface, and on the top, you just used a razor blade to skim off the junk. So I guess I'm gonna prepare it to put it in the car, and once I start doing that, we'll see what happens. All right, so I'm gonna end it off here. I have the engine in. It took me probably like 2 hours by myself. I probably got under the car and out from under the car probably like 20 times. No, maybe 30, I don't know. But I got two of the bell housing bolts in. I got all the flex plate bolts in, which it's a pain because the way the car was set up when I got it, it's like the dumbest way to bolt the converter to the flex plate, but I haven't changed it just because I haven't measured anything and I know the car ran before, so I'm just putting it back together how it was. So I guess I'll have to button it up another day and we'll see if she runs.